A capital city under attack, a president captured, and the entire world is just holding its breath. Now, this might sound like the plot of a movie, but it's not. This is the 2026 Venezuela intervention, and today we're going to break down exactly how this happened, why it happened, and what it all means. So, let's set the scene. It's January 3rd. Before any official statements, before any government press conferences, the news just explodes across social media and wire alerts. People around the globe woke up to this one single shocking headline. Caracas was under attack. You know, those first reports, like this one here from the BBC, they were chaotic, they were filled with uncertainty, explosions, military operations, but who was behind it all? That was the billion-dollar question. At this point, the world was just watching this unfold in real time, trying to piece together this insane puzzle. But pretty quickly, that fog of confusion started to clear. Reports, like this one from Al Jazeera, began connecting the dots. And those dots were pointing straight towards U.S. military assets in the Caribbean. The Pentagon was staying quiet, but an unofficial story was already taking shape, and fast. So that's the big question, right? How does an attack on a sovereign capital just happen? Things like this don't come out of nowhere. To really get what happened on January 3rd, we've got to rewind the clock and look at the path that led us here. This timeline really lays it all out. You can see a very clear pattern of escalation. It all started back in mid-2025 with these huge new economic sanctions. By October, the whole conversation shifted to security threats. Then came a really critical moment in December. A UN resolution for a peaceful transition got vetoed. That pretty much slammed the door on any kind of diplomatic solution. The final straw? A rejected ultimatum on New Year's Day. Every single step was another step closer to a full-blown conflict. Okay, so when Washington finally broke its silence, this is the official reason they gave the world. The goals, as they stated them, were all about 4 key things: getting rid of a dictatorship, dealing with a terrible humanitarian crisis, neutralizing threats to the region, and confronting these alleged illicit activities sponsored by the state. This was the case they presented to the public. So that's the political backstory. But what about the military side of things? How was an operation of this magnitude actually pulled off? Let's dig into the anatomy of the attack itself. Every big military op has a code name, right? This one was called Operation Sovereign Future, and its objective was incredibly specific. We're not talking about a war for territory or a full-scale invasion, nope. This was a surgical strike designed for one single purpose: to capture the Venezuelan president and his inner circle. The whole thing was executed like a textbook raid, broken down into 4 phases. First, precision airstrikes took out air defenses, basically clearing a path into the capital. Then, under the cover of darkness, special forces flew in on helicopters. From there, they launched a coordinated ground raid right on the presidential palace. And it all culminated in Step 4, the capture of President Maduro. From a purely military standpoint, it was incredibly fast, and it was successful. Now, you can't exactly do something like this and expect the world to just shrug it off. An operation of this magnitude was guaranteed to send massive shockwaves across the globe. And almost immediately, the international community just fractured, drawing these really sharp lines in the sand. And the reactions pretty much fell into 2 very distinct camps. On one side, you had nations who saw the intervention as a necessary, if difficult, last resort to finally resolve a crisis that had been going on for years. And on the other side, you had this huge chorus of condemnation, people who saw the attack as a flagrant violation of national sovereignty and international law. This table here breaks it down a little more clearly. The U.S., of course, justified its actions as a move to restore democracy. The Lima Group, that's a bloc of Latin American nations, was totally divided. Some offered full support, others were calling for everyone to calm down. But the strongest condemnation, no surprise, came from global powers like Russia and China, who called it a violation of sovereignty and immediately demanded an emergency meeting at the UN. And this quote from The Guardian, man, it just hits the nail on the head. It really gets to the very heart of the debate that erupted right after. Because here's the crucial point. It's this fundamental disagreement over motive. Was this a humanitarian liberation like the White House framed it? Or, as critics argued, was it really a power play for geopolitical and economic interests, just using human rights as a cover? Which leaves us with this massive question. Was this a decisive action, something that was absolutely necessary to end a years-long crisis that diplomacy just couldn't solve? Or did it set a really dangerous precedent for the 21st century, where one nation can just unilaterally decide to remove the leader of another? Honestly, there are no easy answers here, and you can be sure the world will be grappling with the consequences